Welcome back to Steve's Project Car Garage. My name is Steve, and sitting behind me is my 1969 Triumph Spitfire named Tanker. In previous videos, I had shown you work on the heel board and trying to get ready to replace the heel board and also replace some of the lower B posts. In tonight's video, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the work that I have done, and I'll show you how we've gone from what we had to what we have today. Check it out. So here you can see I'm using my new die grinder from Harbor Freight to go ahead and grind down some of this nasty rust so I can get some good clean metal for welding. So what you see here is a piece of metal that I had originally fabricated on a video that never ended up making it on it. It landed on the cutting room floor really. But it had some good sized pieces of steel on there, so I felt like instead of wasting it, I may as well go ahead and clean it up and use it to make the cuts and get the pieces I really needed. So I'm still getting used to recording with more than one iPhone, and in my haste I had forgotten to go ahead and start recording with that iPhone that's pointing right at the metalwork. So please accept my apologies. These next couple of moments will just be recorded from this angle, and you get the gist of what happened. What you see occasionally burning off there is not only just smoke from the welding, but on the back side of this there was a lot of rubber undercoating that I was just having a really tough time grinding down with, especially considering the fact that I left the wheel on there. In hindsight, I'd probably go ahead and pull that wheel off and get at it from a better angle and really get it all cleaned up, but that's what ends up smoking and catching fire a little bit there. Just like that. Whoops. And now it's time to bust out our good old friend the grinder, cleaning up a lot of those welds. For this I was using the B setting, and I was at about 3.5 on the C on the speed of the wire for this weld. So it actually made some pretty decent penetration, but as always, there's a bit of rockiness that you need to grind off. Big smoke. Don't breathe this. So I did end up using a 16 gauge steel for the crossmember pieces that I'm welding in here. I went ahead and I picked up a small sheet of steel from Ace Hardware for probably about 12 or 13 bucks. It worked out really well. Very happy with it. Throughout the entire build of the crossmember section, I would periodically fit the patch panel that I got from Rimmer Brothers with a lower B-post. And this is one of those things I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't making my parts too big and that everything would line up pretty well throughout the process. So throughout this entire video you'll see me putting this on, taking it off multiple times. Using those hard drive magnets, by the way, which were given to me by my buddy Chris. Those things are a lifesaver. They really help holding stuff in place. Some folks use things called clicos, which are mainly used for fabrication and building stuff in the aircraft industry. But I find these hard drive magnets are a great cheap alternative, and they also don't require you to punch holes in your steel, so you don't have to fill it later. Whoops, I forgot to completely film that part of me welding. Oh well, here we are back to more cutting and grinding. For those of y'all with a good keen eye, you'll see here that this is actually filmed at a different time, different day. I ended up calling it a night on that first section and decided to come on out the next day when I had a little more time and energy left in me. Plus it was getting late, so here we are with picking it back up, right where we had left off. So this part here that I'm straightening out with the vice grips, it really kind of had me confused. I suspect that actually was flanged out like that, so that way it would attach the lower B-post, but it seemed like it was coming up short by almost half an inch. So I went ahead and I straightened it out, and I just welded that section directly to the actual lower B-post itself. Not sure if that's the way it was from the factory or not, but that's the way it is now, and I'm okay with it. Here you can see where things really started to come together for me. I gotta say, I love these hard drive magnets. If you're doing any of this fabrication, you don't have a set of those, go on eBay, pick up a bundle of them. They're super cheap, and they are such great magnets to have. So the paint that I used here is from Duplicolor, and it is supposedly a weld-through primer. I wasn't a big fan of it. If you look here and you watch the welding, it's almost as if I was welding without having the MIG gas on. I double and triple checked to make sure the gas was flowing, and it definitely was, but man, did it make a mess. And it stank too while it was being burned when I was applying it. I've talked to a few folks in a couple of the forums that I'm on, and a lot of them say that this stuff is very much like that, but if I use too thick of a coat, it could definitely cause it to spatter worse than it is. So I think that might be what I was dealing with. I just had too much paint on there. And here now, I'm just gonna put a couple of extra tack welds in here to start really kind of sealing things up. So far at this stage, things look to be pretty solid. You'll notice here that I'm using my air compressor to just blow air on the welds that I've just done. I've always been told that this is a great way to try to help cool down the welds pretty quickly so that way you don't risk warping the panel too much. Here I'm just going through and patching up any little last holes and pinholes that I could see. I'm still going to have to go back through this a couple more times just to make sure I don't have anything here, but you can sometimes see light that comes through, and that's a good indicator that you still have some more welding to do. So here I went ahead and used some more of that weld through primer to go ahead and just paint up what I had just done. And I started using some cardboard to make my last little template for the crossmember piece that I'm building. I still got a lot of that spatter here from the weld through primer, but I was able to definitely add a lot more heat seeing as how it was a lot newer metal, so that was pretty nice.
So now that you've seen the progress that has happened on the lower V-post and the crossmember itself, I'm going to show you another trouble area over on this side that I want to tackle before we really start working on the passenger side, which is going to be the next part. So check this out and we'll talk about it next. All right, so this is the shelf that sits behind the driver's side. Okay, so you got the driver's seat that'll sit here, and then the floor is going to be down here, but you got the actual heel board section that's going to be here. So this is the kind of the little shelf area. As you can see here, this thing is severely rotten and in a lot of places here. And so what my plan is to try to measure and cut a piece that's going to be a uniform sized piece down like this. And I'm going to cut this whole section out, clean up this area, and then replace all of this metal. This is about 22 gauge steel, so I was actually able to pick some up from Ace tonight. I don't think I'm going to get to replacing it itself, but I'm probably going to start measuring, drawing some lines, and make my plans for how I'm going to cut this out, and then possibly even cut it out and start mocking up a template. So that's what we're going to work on next.
So what my plan here was to go ahead and cut out a 1-inch section. I was going to do 1 inch directly from the wheel arch itself all the way around. My plans kind of changed as I started to get into cutting, but as you can see, as a general rule, I was trying to measure out that 1 inch, and that's roughly what I followed. But as you know, plans change. And again, yet another less than ideal use for a nice flathead screwdriver. I really need to get myself some chisels at some point. But so far, these old flatheads that I've had kicking around, they've been filling in the gaps and working pretty well. This section here was almost like surgery, being very gentle, trying to not go ahead and cut that cross member. I was successful, thankfully. And again here, more gross use of a flathead screwdriver to go ahead and pry off the flange that was spot welded to the actual wheel arch. This worked out pretty well actually. I was able to get it off and it's nice and clean.
Alright, so as you can see here, I was able to actually get this out, get it pretty well cleaned up. I'm actually very happy with that. It's not the straightest of cuts like I was hoping for. So I may have something else to do here, I'm not sure. Or I just might go ahead and cut a piece, make a piece like that, and then make a piece to come in here. But I'm not sure. We'll figure that out when we get to that stage. But for the time being, I'm going to start wrapping it up for the night, because I'm pretty happy. All right, well, that just about wraps it up, folks. Appreciate y'all sticking with me on these videos. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. I gone ahead and I did a lot of great work down here. I'm very happy with the progress, and I'm happy with the way that things are turning out. As you can tell here, I'm a sweaty mess. This is the joys of working in the summer here in Florida in a hot, sweaty garage. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that like and that subscribe button, hit the bell, get those notifications. And I'm going to keep this stuff coming to you. So I hope that y'all have a great night. Thanks again. Cheers.